Hi, and welcome to Watch It Played. My name is Rodney Smith, and in this video, we're going to learn the two-player game, Unmatched, Little Red Riding Hood vs. Beowulf, designed by Brian Naff, Rob Davio, Justin Jacobson, and published by Mondo Games and Restoration Games, who helped sponsor this video. Don't be fooled by her size. Little Red Riding Hood has, after all, dealt with actual wolves, and is ready to take on the likes of the legendary Beowulf in this new standalone expansion for Unmatched. Unmatched is a game that began with Battle of Legends Volume 1, but is now a series of games that can be mixed and matched, combining new characters and locations. This is a standalone game for just 2 players, but its characters can be used with any of the other sets, including in a 4-player team game if you have one of the bigger boxes. Now, I'm not going to teach you the rules for Unmatched in this video. For that, you can check out the full tutorial for the original game, which we have linked in the description below. Here, though, I'm going to take you on a tour of the characters and locations this set introduces. So join me at the table, and let's take a look. First up, we have a double-sided 2-player board that actually shows the same map on both sides, but introduces a new way of representing the spaces. This is the traditional version, with filled-in zone circles, but over here, the zones are indicated just on the borders of the circles, allowing more of the board art to show through. This is a nice adjustment for anyone who wanted to be able to see more of the theme of the board coming through as you play, but feel free to use either side. Now, this map also has a new feature, doors, and you'll see them pictured here on the map in these 3 spaces, and you also get these 3 door pieces. Now, all the doors begin open, so you can just set these tokens to the side for now. At any point during a maneuver action, for free, a fighter can close an adjacent door by adding one of these tokens to it, and this doesn't stop their maneuver. If they have more points to spend, they can keep going. Or while maneuvering, you can spend 1 space of your move to open a closed door, removing this token from the board and setting it to the side again. This also doesn't stop your maneuver, so you could keep going if you had, again, more points to spend. You cannot open or close doors during other types of movement, for example, from a card effect that moves a figure. You also can't close a door if a figure classified as large is on both spaces on either side of a door. Now, there are no large figures in this set, but large fighters will always be easy to identify. When a door is closed, you ignore all lines that pass through it. In other words, we would not treat these spaces as adjacent for the purpose of attacks or movement. Doors also break up zones. For example, while I'm here, this space is no longer considered a part of my zone. So doors will give you a new tactical element to consider while playing out your battles. But next, let's take a look at Little Red and what she brings to the table. She has a health of 14 and melee attacks, and is joined by the Huntsman as a sidekick who has 9 health and does ranged attacks. Now, Little Red's special ability is that she carries a basket with her wherever she goes. And what is in that basket is represented by the symbol here on the topmost card of her discard pile. And there are 4 different possible symbols: a knife, a pelt, wolf's bane, or a wild, which represents any of the previous 3. So what's the purpose of the basket? Well, let me show you with an example. If Little Red played What Big Eyes You Have during combat, the immediate effect is that this cancels all the effects of her opponent's card. But there's also a secondary effect here as well, and this shows the Wolf's Bane symbol in front of it. This means that if this symbol was showing on the top card of her discard pile, or if it was showing the wild symbol, then this effect would also trigger. So now she would both cancel the effects of her opponent's card and ignore the opponent's combat value. Either way, after this card is played, it then goes into her discard pile, and now the pelt is in her basket. And that means if there's a pelt effect on the next card she plays, then that would resolve. Now, if you play a card and the symbols don't match what are showing in your basket, you still get to resolve any part of the card that doesn't require a symbol. So in this case, Little Red would recover 2 health. But since the pelt symbol isn't showing in her basket, it means she doesn't recover 4 health instead. At the very beginning of the game, you will start with this basket in your discard pile. Now, this doesn't count as a card itself. In other words, it will always stay here at the bottom of your deck. You can't draw it somehow. But it shows the wild symbol here, and that means the very first card you play will always get to resolve its basket effect. And with the basket rules understood, let's look at what other things we'll find in Little Red's deck. What big ears you have is a regular attack card with a value of 4, but if the knife is showing in your basket, you can choose to use it as a defense card instead. And speaking of defense, here's a defense 2 card, but if you have a pelt showing in your basket, then after combat, you also deal damage to the opposing fighter equal to the printed value of their card, which could be brutal. Never Leave the Path is a flexible card as its effect changes based on the symbol in your basket. So this is a case where you definitely want to play a particular card first to ensure you follow up with the effect from here that you really want. For even more flexibility, here's a card that can be used as a solid attack or defense value, but its effect is simply that it generates a wild for you. So when this is used and goes into your basket, you now know for sure you'll be able to trigger the next card that you play. And don't forget the Huntsman is here to help as well, and he does 4 damage with this card when he's at range, or if he's adjacent, he does 6 damage instead. Well, now I'll share a few more of the cards from this deck if you'd like to pause and read them, or just want to enjoy the art. Okay, with Little Red covered, let's see what tricks Beowulf brings to the table. He comes with Wiglaf, his sidekick, and they both have melee attacks and high health values of 17 and 9. Beowulf also comes with 3 rage tokens and begins the game with 1 in play, which you show by setting it with this side face up. Any rage that isn't active, so these other 2, you leave face down. Anytime during the game, if Beowulf takes damage, you add a single rage token to his current rage by flipping it face up. Damaging Wiglaf does not affect this, but how much rage Beowulf has indicates his rage level, which goes from 0 to a maximum of 3. Any rage he would gain when he's already at 3 is just ignored. It doesn't matter when he takes the damage or where it comes from, any amount of damage will gain him a rage token. And if there are different effects that deal damage on the same card, each of them will increase his rage. For example, if Little Red attacked Beowulf with Once Upon a Time and did damage from this attack value here, then Beowulf would gain a rage token. Then after combat, if this separate effect also resolved, she'd do a separate 3 damage to Beowulf, increasing his rage again. Rage is a currency Beowulf can spend with the cards he plays. For example, the War King provides only a 1 attack or defense value, but during combat, the player can spend any amount of rage and increase the card's value by +2 for each one spent. When you spend rage, just flip it face down again, where you can collect it again later by flipping it face up. But keep in mind, spending rage is always optional. You can choose not to spend it if you don't want the related effect. And with that understood, let's take a look at a few more of his cards. The Drinking Horn lets you spend any amount of rage, and then you can pick a different effect from this list for each one. Draw cards, move, or recover health. Epic Poem is an interesting one because it gives you 1 rage, and then for every rage you have, you increase your attack value on this card by 1. The unique thing, though, is you don't spend any of that rage like you normally have to gain rage benefits. With Vigor and Courage, you can find a great way to gain rage. You force your opponent to discard a random card, and then you gain rage based on its boost value. Here's a nasty one. If you win a combat against a sidekick using this card, then no matter how much health that sidekick has remaining, you can spend 3 rage and then just immediately defeat it. Wiglaf has some interesting options as well. He can use this card to whip Beowulf into a frenzy. Here he deals 1 damage to each adjacent fighter, including Beowulf if he's there, and not only would Beowulf's rage go up from that, but as it says here, you then gain 1 action. And with that overview, I'll now share a few more cards that you can look over. Well then, that should give you a good idea of what you can expect in this set for Unmatched. If you have any questions about anything you saw here, feel free to put them in the comments below and I'll gladly answer them as soon as I get a chance. You'll also find videos on this channel for several of the other expansions in this series, so check the description for links to those as well. And if you found this video helpful, please consider liking, subscribing, and clicking that little bell icon so you get a notification every time we put up a new video. But until next time, thanks for watching.